Welcome back to the Shop Mini RC, everybody. I'm Ken, and today we're looking at this guy. We've got an Atlan Design Group SCX24 conversion for the big country and other model trucks. You're basically able to snag up these bodies on Amazon or different places. They're toy trucks, and then they make a conversion kit that lets you throw it all onto an SCX24. And it's a pretty good kit, all comprehensive, got links, everything. All you got to do is provide basically a stock SCX24, ideally like a JLU length, C10 length, or even the new base camp, the new SCX24 base camp, which is like 99 bucks. Pick one of those up, throw it in one of these guys. Pretty sweet. So we're going to dive into it. We've already got one built. They offer two models. They offer the Dodge and a Chevy 3500 dually. So we're going to build the dually here. Let's dive in. Before we get into this too far, make sure you like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell, help support the channel. I appreciate all the viewers and subscribers and channel members. So what we've got here is the Atlan Design Group kit. They basically offer two different kits. One is for the Ram and one is for the Chevy. This is the Chevy 3500. Now this body is actually a Big Country toy or another. There's a couple brands out there that make these different toy bodies. And basically Atlan Design Group produced a conversion kit to stretch out the wheelbase on an SCX24 and convert it over to a Big Country truck, which is pretty cool. On this specific one, it's got an interior because this version of the truck has an interior. He made a little sliding tray here that goes over the battery. The battery goes here, and then your interior slides over it on these little side rails. But yeah, pretty much all of the parts you need to convert over one of these toy truck bodies into an SCX24 is provided. So it's pretty cool. He's got his links, the extra long rear links, uppers and lowers, some high clearance lowers, as well as these drive shafts, extensions, some resin printed wheels that look really good actually for the dually here. And then this is an extra adapter piece. He included the original front bumper, which you can see he 3D printed his own bumper and grille because the one that comes with the toy has a part that is no longer there. It's attached to the chassis of the toy, which means you've got all this open, which is not ideal. So he produced a new bumper on this guy. And yeah, it's cool because these toys have a lot of kind of cool functions and details. We've already got the Ram built, and the Ram is offered with this really cool toolbox. It's got magnets. So this is one of the conversion kits you can purchase. It's also got a little slider drawer in the back with a magnet in there to help keep it closed while you're off on the trails. And yeah, just a really cool looking truck. This also, the original toy has a dually bed, and he included that with ours. As well as this can convert to a flatbed. So if you want to do a flatbed, you can do that. He also produces a trailer, and I'll show that picture of that trailer over here. It's pretty cool. Also got a new front bumper on that. So yeah, I'm excited to get them both built. This guy, I haven't been out driving it other than just testing to make sure we're running good. But I can show you what's going on here. We're just using stock electronics with this E-Pinon motor, transmission, OGRC servo, OGRC links, drive shaft, and isokinetic axles. We're using the isos on these, getting a ton of steering angle, which is pretty cool. Also this OGRC brass wide skid, because I wanted to get a little bit extra weight down low, because I knew this guy was going to be very top heavy. We're probably going to use the same one on here, even though we've got a stock skid here, or belly plate. But yeah, all the parts are included. I'll show you some pictures. You can see the different stuff that's included in the listing that he has on the website. The kit is basically a DIY kit where he provides all the different printed parts, as well as all the extra chassis pieces here. Essentially, all this stuff is going to be included in the kit. The only thing you have to provide is your own body. So you'll have to go online and find, whether it's Amazon, AliExpress, any of those places, and find one of the bodies that is designed for this kit. You know, either the 3500 Chevy or the Ram, and then you can put the kit together yourself. It is going to take a little bit of work and cutting and things of that nature, but he has a full breakdown, all the instructions on how to, where to cut, exactly what to do when building it. To save us time, he went ahead and sent us out a already converted truck. He does sort of offer these, probably very limited, and you've got to reach out through the website, and he's going to give you a price that's not on the website, because there's a lot of time and effort that goes into modifying the body and converting everything over, making space, dremeling things, getting it cleaned up, and converting it all over. So that is it's very much a builder's project here. You're not going to just easily throw this thing together with some screws. You're going to have to definitely do some dremeling and cutting and checking your cuts, all that kind of stuff. So if you're ready for a really cool project, I think this is going to be an awesome little kit here. The conversion kit will work perfect. And yeah, so we're going to go ahead and build this. Basically, once you've got your body converted and you're ready to mount it to your chassis, that's where we're going to go here. So we're basically going to be just putting our links together, which we've got to add some little ball joints to it. You can use the stock ball joints or aluminum ones if you want to press them in there. We've, on this guy, pressed them in with some, can't really see them, but there's some little aluminum ball joints in there from metal links. And then we put the ball joint on a Dremel and then screwed the ball joint to the Dremels and then spun the ball joint inside the plastic 3D printed link to kind of create a little bit of space in there. And it seems to be working just fine. Definitely dig that. I'm kind of curious why they chose to do the drive shafts the way they did. You have to use two female ends here versus doing a female on one end and then allowing you to use the male end over here and go into the plastic. Maybe, I guess 3D printing, the negative space would have been very difficult. So that's probably why. If you were to injection mold it, you could do it that way for the drive shaft extension. Either way, this seems to be a lot stronger than I would expect. When I first saw it, I was like, I don't know, but we've been running around kind of on the carpet and whatnot, and haven't had any issues. Bound it up in a pile of stuff over here on the floor and didn't have any issues, so it seems fine. He does include two, so if you break one, and I'm sure that if you broke one after buying a kit, you could reach back out and he can get one back out to you for a very reasonable price. I don't know, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but probably pretty cheap, just shipping, or shipping in a couple bucks, something like that. Either way, all right. Let's go ahead and start to get this guy together, and then hopefully we'll be able to show you some running footage. So as I mentioned, you're going to need a donor rig, basically an SCX24 C10 JLU Bronco, or the new Basecamp that just came out, which would be a perfect candidate for this. The new Basecamp is a totally stripped down version. There's no lights, which is fine because you're probably not going to be able to use the lights transferred over into this without extending all the wires and all that and doing custom work. But it's basically $99 for a Basecamp. And sometimes you'll be able to find the deadbolts on sale, but then you need to change your links because you'll need links and Driveshaft because you need the C10 JLU Basecamp Bronco front end. We've got an aftermarket one here, but you can take a totally stock one. This guy's set up with an aluminum axle and the OGRC servo and some aluminum links. So that's what we're going to use here. And then obviously our rear. Those can be totally stock though, and then your whatever power plant of choice. We've got just this aftermarket transmission housing or transmission here. We're gonna probably, I don't know, we got some motors coming and stuff, so I don't know. I don't want to go brushless. We're just gonna use some stock electronics on this guy for now. We can always upgrade it later if we decide to run it more often or want a little bit more granularity in the throttle. But we'll see. Right now they're kind of just trail rigs. I don't think you're going to be doing hardcore crawling with these guys. They're really for scale looks and just looking cool. But I can tell already, if you build it right and get some good weight down low, they can probably handle the rocks fairly well. So we'll see. Again, they're all hard body. They're heavy up top. It's always going to be that way. Long wheelbase is always a struggle if you're working on breakovers. But again, these aren't hardcore line killers, right? These are just really cool looking scale rigs. So we're gonna run just brushed in this guy for now. And we got some tires here. I've got these little guys. I think these are some OGRC tires as well. They're just going to kind of press onto here, but they're another set of small tires. I think these will work really well in the body as far as the diameters are concerned. Now, I don't know how low this guy's going to sit. The other one kind of sits a little high. We were able to get it dropping pretty low, at least on the front's pretty low here. So we can go all the way to there, and then the rear, that's as far as we can compress on the rear. But yeah, another small tire gang truck. These guys are a little smaller. We'll see. It's going to be on the dually. Hopefully it doesn't look like we're sitting too high. I feel like we're going to sit right about here on the rear. So they're going to be kind of jacked up. But you got to remember, there's only so much space for the wheel turning here. The rear, you could really tuck it in there if you're able to get it sitting low enough, which you'd have to have your axle basically sitting in the bed, and you'd have to change your whole chassis. But I mean, you don't have to worry about rubbing, right? just the front is going to be the issue. So it's probably going to sit about like this, is my guess. We'll see. We'll see when it's done. Maybe we can put some bigger tires on it, but we do have 6 of these tires that we'll be able to throw on and get our dually set up. That'll be cool. And then, like I said, we're going to use this brass skid here. It's an OGRC wide skid, helps get weight down low. It is still sprung weight, so ideally all your weights would be on your axles, but this is not bad. It's going to help at least counter some of that high center of gravity. And then we've just got a stock replacement drive shaft that we picked up off Amazon or from A-Main Hobbies or wherever you buy your upgrades or aftermarket replacement parts, whatever. We did this because we need both of the female ends here for the drive shaft. Okay, so that is the one thing outside of a stock donor rig is you're going to need an extra female drive shaft. You don't have to buy a whole kit, but if you're going to definitely need one more of the females there. Okay, let's see what else. That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Stock truck, drive shaft, and the body. If you don't get the body from Atlan Design, you're going to have to source that yourself as well. We'll probably try to find some on Amazon, put the links down in the description below for you. That way, if you do decide to pick one of these kits up, you will easily be able to find the body. Let me go ahead and start getting this guy together. I'm not going to do a full, you're not going to see the whole build, but I'll probably record some here and there and show you any issues that we run into or some tips and tricks that I may find along the way. This guy went together very easily. I mean, there wasn't any real issues. We're using longer than stock shocks. If you use your stock shocks, your truck will sit a little lower. Again, you can only go so low before you start to rub. Our rear would sit a little lower with stock shocks. Actually, no, it wouldn't. I'm sorry, because we did have to put some clearance on this brace here so that our links would compress all the way to the brace. So that does compress all the way to the brace. We did have to change how we did our rear shock mounts with these guys. We moved them forward a little bit and had to clear out space in the brace. We basically took, let me find the brace here. One of these guys, since he provided an extra one, I was like, whatever, we can chop it up. Worst case, if something happens, strips out, we've always got a replacement. But this piece is what connects the two chassis together. And we went ahead and trimmed out this section here so that we could fit our shock mount in there. It's hard to see, but you might be able to see it there. Right in here, you can see the shock mount, and we cut that guy out on that little brace or this little center bracket piece so that we can move our shock mount forward. And yeah, it worked out really well. So it got our longer shocks up a little higher, so we still have a good amount of articulation there. And then we have full compression all the way down. And I was able to Dremel down on this guy here. I basically took out a lot of space in here and here and here and here so that the links could drop down in. The way he designed these links is really cool. They're able to kind of tuck into each other. I don't know if you can see that, but it's really cool how the links are set up with these angles. Now, the weak point of these links is still always going to be right here because that thinnest part is essentially going to be your weak point. But these are pretty beefy in general, so I don't think we're going to have issues with the links unless the truck falls 2-3 feet, and then you might break a link there. But outside of abuse, these are going to be totally fine. I've used 3D printed links before, and I've only ever once had one break, and because it fell from a pretty high height. So, I mean, even an aluminum link would have bent there, or a stock link probably would have broke. So, yeah, I think this is gonna be good. Let's go ahead and dive in and get this thing going. So we're gonna go ahead and do the ball joints on these little guys. You can use the plastic ones that come in your stock links. Unfortunately, we don't have a bunch of extra stock links. They're either all on rigs or they've already had their ball joints pulled out. We've only got 3. We need 8. So we're gonna just go ahead and use these brass ones. The brass ball joints that we have here are flat on both, or the same size flange on both sides. They're not extended flanges. Sometimes they'll have like a large flange on one side. Ours are the same on both sides, and they're not large. So they'll fit right into the hole. You can actually just press them in. They'll fit fairly well, but I think better than that, since we've done a few, is to put them in our Dremel, like I mentioned earlier, tighten our screw down. We'll actually go through and make sure our chuck is super tight, and then we'll even tighten a little bit here as if we're screwing it in, just to make sure the ball joint's tight on there. Give ourselves a little bit of power, not too much. We're still very, very low. Well, that's probably a little too much. Slow it down just a little. And then we're going to go ahead and work it through this side, the shiny side, or the flat side. The shiny side is the side that it sat on the bed, and I think it's got more material on that side, so we're going to come in through this side. And we're just going to slowly let it go in, not push too hard. But like, you can hear my Dremel slow down. We're on pretty low power, but we'll go ahead and work it in. Just make sure it doesn't get too hot. Drop it in there. Kind of work it, and it'll start to speed back up. Once it starts to get a little hot, it'll get a little warm. We don't want it to get too hot, right? I don't want it to heat up and melt, but we just want to work some of the material into the ball joint itself so that we have some articulation in there. See that? Pretty easy to do. Again, just don't go too fast. Don't get too hot. Make sure your Dremel's down low, just fast enough to make sure you've got power and it'll spin. And yeah, there we go. You can see we've got some pretty good movement there. Okay, and that should be plenty. Then we back this guy out, take our screw out, and yeah, you can see we've got some good movement in there. Okay, without it being like falling out, right? We didn't melt it. It's not falling out, nothing crazy. So yeah, seems good. We'll go ahead and do all of them now, and we'll move on.
The next day.
In the middle of our video, well, while we were doing our build video, Atlan sent out some new links that addressed what we mentioned earlier about these being kind of thin right in here. They sent some much thicker links. So very awesome of them to send that over. We're going to finish getting this guy together now. Simple as getting our links on, getting our axle on, then we'll throw the transmission and such in it. Okay, we got them all installed. I want to show you these upper links. You basically want to put it so that the top portion goes up. It is kind of angled so that your lower links can cross over and you get the best amount of compression there. You can see how it kind of fits through those grooves. So just make sure you put your links on correctly. They did, like I said, these are updated. They're slightly thicker. Here's the first version that we had. You can see how thin they are. They are almost too thin, in my opinion, but they have plenty of clearance, so that's good. The only spot where we had any issues with clearance was trying to get this to compress fully all the way down, and it was basically the links were hitting onto the chassis there, or the bottom of the chassis. So I just ground down a little bit on this chassis brace, basically this guy right here. Kind of took off some of that just a little bit. You can see what I did in there, just so that our links would get even lower, because I wanted to get this guy as low as possible. Now you may not have to do that, especially if you're running bigger tires. Because we ran such small tires on this guy, we wanted to make sure we could get it as low as possible. All right, so let's go ahead and get our axle on now. Got our axle all mounted up. It doesn't have a ton of articulation, but again, if you really wanted to, you could probably sand this down a little bit, maybe open up the ball joint a little more. I don't want a ton of articulation, so I'm fine with it. It's pretty stiff, but like I said, I'm okay with it, especially with how long it is. And we have tons in the front. So we'll see how that does. We can always adjust it later. We're going to go ahead and do the drive shaft. We also got a transmission in there, motor and transmission. So let's get our drive shaft going on. So obviously our front drive shaft is just going to be a normal, whatever length you're using, which should be a C10 JLU Bronco type length. And then the rear, you're going to use 2 female ends. And I went ahead and kind of shaved it down a little on this side. Just took a little bit off so that it would kind of slide a little better. Have a little bit of movement in there. You don't want to take off too much if you're going to do that, because you don't want it to slip. But I did want it so that it would at least move a little bit. Now again, it's not going to just fall out. So it's still kind of tight, but there's at least movement in there so it doesn't get any kind of crazy binding when it's articulating. You also want to make sure your drive shaft is in phase, which is making sure that the joints here are lined up. You can see we've got it kind of goes straight across. That way our joints move the same and they're not fighting each other. It helps reduce vibration, especially in a longer shaft like this, or higher speeds, stuff like that. You just want to minimize it by making sure that they're properly aligned and it's in sync. And then we'll go ahead and we'll throw this drive shaft in and the front drive shaft in. All right, drive shafts are all installed. You can see that we've got movement there, and under full compression, we're not binding. If you are feeling like there's binding, or like when you fully compress, the shaft is not able to collapse enough, it will put pressure on the drive shaft into the motor and transmission, and it'll cause it to cause extra stress on the motor. So you just want to make sure that it doesn't feel like when you fully compress your suspension, your drive shaft is hitting. You don't want that to happen. And this is right there. If this were any closer or smaller of a gap, it would bind. So just keep that in mind. And then same on the front. Obviously you want to make sure you're not falling out or anything like that. But yeah, should be good. Okay, now I guess we'll do our shocks. So we're going to go ahead and use some shorties. These are some 36 millimeter length, basically the same as the stock length, but they're the Next Racing oil filled shocks. These are some of the best shocks I've ever used. I talk about them all the time. A lot of times we use these reservoir versions, but on this guy, I think I'm just going to use the regular style. I just want to make sure there's clearance, and I don't even know if I have any others of these right now, so of the reservoir version, but this is what they look like. They're a fully functioning reservoir. They are amazing. They are buttery smooth. They make the 36 millimeter. They also make a 45 millimeter, and then they make an AX24, so even longer, a 52 millimeter. Very, very cool shocks, and they offer a few different colors: black, red, green, and blue. I don't know if all the sizes are available in all the colors, but I do know that those are some other colors that are available. So yeah, definitely some smooth shocks. So I'm excited to get these guys on here. Shocks are all set up, feeling good, feeling good. Like I said, we still have articulation, but it is limited just because of our shock length anyway. But yeah, seems fine, seems smooth. Ride height seems okay for now. We won't know till we get the body on. Once the body's on, we'll be able to tell kind of what our ride height looks like. Seems like it might be kind of tall on the back. So we might try to figure out a way to adjust these shocks or get some shock towers to raise the shocks up a little higher so we can get this truck a little lower. Just a little bit. I don't want it jacked to the sky, but you know, still need to make sure we have clearances. And then, yeah, oh, the front here. So we are hitting on our servo mount, which is very typical when you go with the high torque servo. So one thing you can do is you can trim the ears off the servo, Dremel those off right there, or you can make space by cutting off the chassis rail here. You can even just bend the chassis rail, which is what we're going to end up doing here. So I'm just going to bend the chassis rail out just a tad, not much. And you got to make sure you don't bend your actual chassis. So you want to hold it nice and flat and then bend it out. So we're going to go ahead and do that. You can see we're just bent out just a little, and that'll help us not get caught on our servo ears. Now, if you're gonna have a bumper on there, totally different story. And you might want to go with the torque servo, which is the mountless servo. It doesn't have ears on it. Very cool. We have video on that. You can check that out on our channel. Nice. So now we'll go ahead and mount up our body. We just got to loosen these screws a little bit, and that'll widen up our chassis just a little, just enough to be able to get our hinge, our body mount hinge on there. And then we can tighten it back down and also add the 2 screws right here. We should be good to see how our suspension looks. I do think we're going to need to do something about this because it looks like it's going to be a bit too tall. Yeah, that guy is sitting pretty tall, especially for our little tiny tires we're going to do here. That's going to be jacked to the sky. We're going to look like we missed leg day. We missed leg day here. So I'm going to try to lower this. I'm going to try to maybe put some shock towers here. And we have to try to lower the front. The only thing we can really do to lower the front, because look at that, we got all this showing here, would be to lower the body mount here. So I'm going to lower the body mount as much as we can. It's going to tilt the front down just a little bit. But that's about as good as we're going to get. I kind of wish this body was able to sit lower on the chassis. But it is hard when you have a full depth bed. It's the full depth, right? Most RCs would have a half depth bed to be able to get it to kind of sit where they want it. And also we saw the interior, so I can't lower it too much because then the interior won't fit right. But we're going to see what we can do here. So I'm not the biggest fan of how this rear is. I wish they would have made this more even here, so we could have put mounts on this section here, potentially. You know, these kind of mounts, I could have just screwed them in there and then used those for mounts. But because this doesn't extend far enough, the mount can't sit even. And because this doesn't sit flush on there, the mount won't sit even. So I'm going to end up having to put the mounts a little further back than I wanted, but that's not a big deal. And we're going to put one using the chassis hole here into here. And then I guess this other one, we'll just have it float, or we'll try to put a hole or something, a super long screw. Hopefully it'll sit nice and flat. But yeah, so this is basically going to, I already took the screws out here, but basically going to sit like this. And then our shock will mount up in the top there. At least that's the goal for now. That does mean I'm going to have to Dremel this out right here because our shock mount will need to sit right in there. So we're going to Dremel out some of that.
A few moments later.
There we go. You can see that I had to Dremel out this portion here so I could fit the shock tower piece into there. And then we had to put a spacer so that we could put this down. Like I said, if this was just butted, if it just kind of butt up perfect with this, then we wouldn't have had to use a spacer. It would have been nice to just be able to throw a screw in there and have it, you know, hold in there. But we got it. They're kind of angled just a little bit because my spacers aren't perfect, but I'm okay with that because it actually gives me more clearance back here. You can see the screw, there's basically almost hitting on it, but there is just enough clearance. So the angle worked out perfect to give us clearance so that we're not hitting on the screw. Okay. Seems fine. Just kind of wish that it was built in to be able to do, put shock mounts wherever you want. Even if you had to drill new holes in the plastic. Drilling holes through the chassis is a real pain, so that's why I chose to go forward. But that should get us plenty low in the back, or as low as it's going to get, really. Let's get that body back on. I think that's going to work as good as it's going to get. It's still kind of sitting tall. Once we have a little weight on there, it'll compress though, but then we don't have a lot of up travel, but it is what it is. And then this side, it's better. You can see we raised the shock up all the way to the mount, lowered our mount as low as we could. Still kind of wish we could go a little lower on that mount, but that's where we're at. So at least for now. You can always try to adjust things later. And boom, there we go. We might need to just get some bigger tires. These tires might be a little too small with how much gap we've got. I really wanted to do a small tire truck, but I think we need some bigger tires. Doesn't look bad though. Doesn't look horrible. We got some good articulation in here. If we go too big, we're going to rub. You actually already kind of rub a little bit there. So that's kind of a problem. But yeah, I mean, not too bad. Not too bad. Have some good articulation back here. Look at that. We do sit pretty low on the shock though when it's sitting down. Basically fully compressed. But a lot of people run rubber bands and stuff on their shocks, so it's fine. Whatever. It'll work. We just need to get our ESC. We're gonna use a stock ESC and a battery in there. We can go run it. Oh, and our interior. Gotta make sure our interior still fits. We should be good there, though. Let's see. Put this slide on like so. Yeah. Still got the interior. Doors open. Yeah, buddy. Very cool. And there we go. ESC in there. Battery in there. Everything fits nice and tight underneath there. We need to clean up our wiring a little bit. Kind of wish there was some sort of you should have had some sliders or boat sides that you can mount to your skid or your chassis down at the bottom to kind of cover some of that, because it's really open in there. But maybe if we hide the wires, it won't be so bad. Or make them black. And Sharpie them black. All right, let's see. Is this not closing? Well, we might have to trim our dash here. Looks like our dash might be hitting our ESC. Oh, it sure is. Just a little bit. Just a little bit trimming. But regardless, we got power. We got steering. Yeah.
A few moments later.
Well, I changed my mind. We went from the small tires to some bigger tires here. We've got some clearance. Whoa, just a little bit of rub in there, but nothing crazy. We'll keep this guy the small tire guy. Was able to get it a little bit lower, so the small tires just work a little better on there. And yeah, so that's cool. We're digging this guy. And then, yeah, big tires here, big dually. Had to trim just a little on the body here. There was like a little tab that hung down here, a little tab that hung down here. We snipped it off, dremelled it down, made it nice and smooth. And now we've got a much more appropriate wheel gap here. One of these guys. Very cool. Very cool. We just got to go run it. Let's do that.
Dust cloud rolling from the start. Ram 3500 got a heavy heart. Camping gear in the utility bed. Rolling through the wild, never playing dead. Kicking dirt on the off-road track. Ram's tough hide won't crack. Chevy dually in all black. On the rocks we ain't looking back. Chevy's roar putting competition on tilt. Tough as nails, Atlan Design Group built. Ram beside like a trusted friend. Pushing through the trails, never gonna bend. skies. Ramming a Chevy in the cool breeze chase. Off-road world's our only place. Breaking dawn as the motors growl over the boulders makes us howl. Ram steel strong, Chevy's pulse, adventure's call never falls. Breaking dawn as the motors growl over the boulders makes us howl. Ram steel strong, Chevy's pulse, adventure's call never falls. Kicking dirt on the off-road trail, Ram's tough hide won't crack. Chevy dually in all black, on the rocks we ain't looking back. On the rocks we ain't looking back.
Huge shout out to Atlan Design Group for some awesome conversion kits that they have. Hopefully they keep doing some cool stuff, coming out with new conversion kits, maybe for other trucks, maybe even making some bodies of their own. Maybe that would be cool. I don't know. Some cool stuff they're doing though, and I really like that there's an option out there to do these super long rigs. And yeah, it's just fun to be able to take an SCX24, convert it over to something like this, and you don't even need a bunch of special parts, right? You just take a stock truck, maybe some wheels and tires, and then throw it all onto a cool toy body like this. The high detailed hard bodies, they just look so cool out on the trail. When we were out running them, we got tons of looks, and people were asking, what is that? So definitely a head turner for sure, and we appreciate them sending it out so that we can check them out. And hopefully you guys will check them out as well. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to post down in the comments below, or reach out to Atlan specifically if you're looking for like the full kits, if they're going to be offering those, stuff like that. And they can just help you figure out what you're looking for and what they're offering. So yeah, definitely reach out. Huge shout out to all of our channel members. These guys here get to see all these videos before anybody else without ads. They also get behind the scenes videos every once in a while. They get priority replies to comments. They also get a priority channel in our Discord. That's a channel specifically for members. And yeah, there's an awesome community in our Discord anyways. So if you're a Discord person, be sure to join our Discord community. Links down in the description below down there. And yeah, I hope you guys had a good time with this video. We certainly did. And yeah, get out there and build something awesome. Build a car, build a course, build a community, and then like, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. Smash it, crash it, bash it. Don't break the expensive parts. Peace.
Chevy's roar, putting competition on tilt. Tough as nails, Atlan Design Group built. Ran beside like a trusted friend. Pushing through the trails, never gone